Breakdowns.
Welcome back to the Chill Sounds and Breakdowns podcast. We have another good one for you, and I am actually excited. From the first time I saw y'all last year, I've been excited, and then to find out that y'all are a really new band, and I'm kind of pumped because I feel like I've been hearing a lot of good stuff from you, and it seems to be very early on. But today we have Blaze and Trent from Somebody Else. How are y'all doing today?
So, good, amazing, good.
Yeah, I'm stoked because we had y'all play a show at Cheapsteaks, like we January show. And that was
Yep.
Was it January? Whoa.
I think it was something like that. January.
I remember it was like colder or something.
Yeah, it was really cold.
Yeah.
But I remember that was the first show that we actually like really got a chance on.
Really?
I remember the email coming in and we were like, I called them. I was like, oh my god.
He was freaking
out. Which is nuts. Like again, that as far as like I get to like the music and stuff kind of came out around 2022. So when like did Somebody Else like actually form, or how did that go about?
Like a couple months before the EP. Like it was
we started in November. I think our first practice was November of 2021.
Mm-hmm.
And then we didn't play our first show until I think March of 2022, and we played 2 shows and then disappeared for like 5 months.
Yeah.
And then released it, and things slowly started amping up, which was cool.
Yeah. Okay, so less than a year in is when you put that EP in.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
That's nuts. Yeah, that's really crazy. Because like the songs that I heard, the first like few sounded like y'all have been doing this for like way longer. Like it really sounds super solid. Like not only in the way obviously like it's mixed in sound, but like just the writing of it all like seems very like mature. So that's insane that y'all got that together in less than a year. Absolutely.
I think when we did that, we were. I think I was still 17.
Yeah, we were.
Yeah.
I would have been 16 when we formed, and then 17 when we released it.
Yeah, so we were like, but we had musical backgrounds, like, and we've all been friends for like a long time.
Okay.
So it was kind of like perfect the way, and we had been toying around with the idea before November when we formed about doing a band. We just didn't know who to include, who to throw in.
We got lucky though because Dylan and Owen are just insane musicians. Like Dylan and like they both just pick up songs in like a matter of minutes. Like we'll play them an idea and they already like have it all mapped out.
And
it's crazy.
Met Dylan, so I was in a metal band when I was a kid.
Really?
And with my dad. Yeah. And Dylan actually had auditioned at one point, or we were toying around the idea of being in that original band. And then come around like a couple years later after COVID.
Yeah.
And then we're inviting him and being like, yo, dude, wants you to be a part of this. And he's like, yes.
Let's go. Let's do it.
It's perfect. And then we stole Owen, unfortunately, from another band.
Just blatantly saying like,
I'm
we
sorry,
stole
Definition, if you're out there.
Not anymore.
But
that was the nail.
It was lucky.
That was the deal. I mean, but it's working out because again, like the dynamic just in itself, when being able to write, it's one of the toughest things normally is creating that chemistry to make writing easy. And the fact that like y'all have that with the band that you have now and are able to put out an EP like you guys put out is incredible.
Well, I feel lucky because we can all sit in a room and like, or even if we're just hanging out, like we hang out all the time. So like I hear some horror stories of bands where it's like all their dudes are constantly like hating each other. They hate coming to practice with each other. Yeah. Like I feel lucky because I don't have to deal with that. We get to sit there and laugh at practice and like mess around.
We're buddies.
I think and I don't know, like as far as like my experience with like playing in bands, like multiple. I played in one. But like that was our thing. That's what like at the best of like our trajectory, it was like we were hanging out like for hours at a time. We would play, practice a little bit, run through songs that we had, or like to me, and I'll ask about this with y'all with creative processes, we used to just sit there and jam stuff for like an hour or two, and then maybe something would come out of it. But having the patience of just like, let's just hang out and play this over and over. Like we would literally, because we would practice. We didn't have a space to practice in, so our neighbor let us use their garage.
Oh, hell yeah.
So we were like, fuck it, yeah. So we would use like their garage, and they had like a basketball hoop outside. So we would like play for like 2-3 hours, go outside and just like you start playing basketball, then go back and play. We'd be in there for like 6 to 7 hours at a time. But that jam, like just let's hang out and write together, like it's cool because it should be like that mixture. You should be just hanging out with your friends. That's what a band should be. I feel like, you know.
You're lucky because our neighbors are not as chill. We got the cops calling us like so many times, and we're practicing at 1-2 p.m. and they do not like it. It's too loud. We gotten so many cops come up and like
really,
they're always cool.
They're always like, very cool.
Can y'all be quiet? And we're just like, okay.
See, I would prefer that. So we had this was also like we would practice outside before that. But I went around to like my neighbors, and I'm like, hey, like we're gonna be practicing out here. And it was only like, it wasn't jams, it was like show practicing. So it would be like, okay, we're gonna be out here for like an hour, maybe 2. And it was always like, it was Sundays, and it was always like 1 or to 2. I mean, 1 to 2 or 3, 2 hours at a time. And I was like, here's my number. Like if it ever gets too loud or you got something going on or some shit, just call me. It's fine. We'll cut it off. It's not the biggest deal. And everyone was cool. And we did that for like a year, and nothing. Nobody complained ever.
Yeah.
One day a cop comes by and is not coming to see us because they passed. And then like the dude must have been like, it was the day that he was just pissed and he just wanted to fucking bust some like kids. And he just turns back and he just like gets off and he's like, immediately asking everybody for their IDs. And I'm like, what? And we're not even like that young here. Like we're like I think we're like all like 24, 25. So we're like, adults. And they're like, he's like, yeah, we need everybody's IDs. And I'm like, why? And he's like, is it a noise? And I go, is it a noise complaint? Easy. Like if it is, we'll pack this shit up and we'll go. It's not the biggest deal in the world. I'm not gonna argue with you. It's like, no, we need everyone's IDs. And I'm like, that doesn't make sense. And I'm like, I live here. You can have my ID. And then he's like, keeps asking everybody. And I go inside. I start walking inside and he's like, where are you going? And I'm like, to get my ID that you asked for. I go, I don't have it. And so I go get it. He ends up running, like everyone like caves in and like gives him the IDs, and like he goes to check to see if anybody has anything. He's just fucking like trying to bust somebody. What? None of us have shit. So like he just goes through it. He walks us up like, again, like kids, and one by one, and he's like, yeah, you shouldn't talk to cops like that. I'm like, you understand, like you're abusing your power. His partner too was like embarrassed. You could see him, and he's like, oh yeah, like, so what kind of music you guys play? And I'm like, fuck you. You're not going to like stand there and let your fucking friend like do this shit to us, or your partner or whatever. And he's like, yeah, you're not allowed to talk to them. I was like, no, dude, you did this shit wrong. Give me my shit back. We took it. But it was so weird. That was the one instance. And after that is when we were like, we need to find like a place. Which kind of stinks. At the time it was, because we were like, what do we do now? And like I said, once we told our neighbor that story, she was like, yeah, I have a garage. You can have it. Like, just practice it. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. It was really nice. I mean, you wrote those songs really quick. Was it from scratch in November? Like, were you, or who like, how does the writing process work?
We had started like, it was kind of collaborative because he had started writing and I had started writing separately.
So,
okay.
And I lived in Arkansas for a year and then like came back, and like when I got back, that was when we started putting everything together. So we had both, like, during the time before that, been writing some stuff.
Okay.
And then, he doesn't know, but I was waiting for him.
Yeah.
I was waiting for his ass. I was like, when is he coming back, bro? I'm ready.
He's like, I need it.
Yeah, it was kind of that thing where we had been friends for so long, and musically we
always wanted to do stuff.
Yeah, and like we were in choir, singing together and stuff, and like I think we both knew that it was going to happen eventually. It was just a matter of when, and it all worked out perfectly. Like,
I was going to say, does it feel like the pieces came together when they should have? Like,
And it didn't feel that way at first, but it ended up, I think everything came together how it was. But I think that one of our first times we wrote together, we wrote Breathe.
Yeah.
Which is all a very special song for us. And like, we had written that together on his floor in his room at like 1 a.m. Probably made the baby sleeping downstairs really
Dude,
mad.
I have a nephew that lives with me.
Yeah.
And like,
Oh, man.
dude, it's just a canon event. Like with the band, like we always wake his ass up. I think I literally like got in trouble the next day, and I was like, whatever, it's worth it.
This is worth it. We wrote it. We wrote. No, I mean, Breathe was part of like the first 2 singles that you dropped off. The first one wasn't Breathe though. The first one was
Dig the World. Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
it's pretty. I think that shows like such a good range between like the songwriting, because both of those because I was listening to see like what came out first and then what followed up, and I'm like, oh, those are 2 very different like sides of the band. You know?
Yeah, we were worried. We were a little worried about. I think at first we worried about it, and then I came with the mindset of like, and then with the name too, like Somebody Else is perfect, because they're like, we kind of want to do what we want to do, and like we're all write songs, and we write such from spectrum A to spectrum B. Like we write so much different stuff. There's so many joke like metal hardcore songs that we've written.
We've literally like. I've had the whole band over at times, and we were like, yeah, we're going to write, like, for the new album coming up. Like, we're going to and then we make, like, a bad trap song.
Oh, man.
So,
yeah, but we were worried at first, and then we were just like, you know what? Let's just throw it out there. Like, at the end of the day, we're still learning, and we're growing on what we want to sound like. Let's just do what we want to do for this. And, like, it's funny because I think we look back now, we're like, oh, the EP, like... You know, I wish, you know.
I feel like it was a product of partly of like trying to get stuff out kind of quickly, because we wanted to like establish ourselves as like a serious project, like kind of quickly. And
shout out JoJo.
Yeah, dude, our producer JoJo is the
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so JoJo used to produce my old metal band.
Really?
And back when he had first started, and we've always kept up, we've always been very close. And I hit him up. And I was like, hey, I have a new project.
JoJo's incredible. Yeah.
I was like, hey, JoJo, I have a new project. Like, I want you to do this. And he was right on board. Like, he flew down. He told us that this was actually the last project he was doing, coming to Texas for.
Wow.
So we were the last
We were
ones.
so lucky.
And now in December, we're flying out to him. But
okay. So you're working already on like
we've been working.
That's all we've been doing.
Yeah.
And it sucks because you can't show anybody anything at the end of the day. But like, we are so excited to show.
I've started like I produce all of our demos, and like as I've been getting more into that, like he's been like just writing better and better stuff, and like it's cool because I feel like the last EP was dope. It was sick. Like we hadn't really figured out, I think, exactly what we wanted like our sound to be yet, which I think is why it was a little bit like all over the place.
Yeah.
But I think with this one, like it's a little bit more uniform. Like there's still a lot of different styles, and we dip into a lot of different sounds, but like I think the vibe and the writing is like more uniform, and it's more like tailored to one vision.
Yeah.
And like, dude, I think
we just
excited.
better honed in the sound where we could pull everything that we loved into one thing.
Yeah. Gotcha. It's figuring out like how it makes sense.
Right.
Because I mean, again, from the outside aspect, I look at that EP, I'm like, these are really good songs.
Right,
you know what I mean? But you guys understand like how they were written, like they weren't really written to be put together. You kind of just, that's kind of what I'm getting.
No one will tell you, but it is impossible to book shows like without releases.
It's tough,
And you can do demos, but like demos only get you so far.
Yeah, true.
And so we knew we needed to put that EP out to show some kind of forward progress. And but now we've been writing for over a year. Like making sure, and we're gonna do a full length, so 12
full
songs.
Length. Oh, shit. Okay.
So, putting literally every ounce of energy. I can't tell you how many demos we have. Like 20. Like it's ridiculous.
Like everyone in the band has spent this whole year like working to save for the album, and then like writing and practicing for the album. That's all we do.
Grind, but like I think we're excited because I hope it shows how much work we put in on the back end, especially being like an independent band and not receiving any help. it's exciting to have that floating around there. That like eventually that'll come out and people will get to listen to that because I feel like that's a better expression. Of like what we want to be and what we want to do.
Gotcha. I mean, I think again. I've talked to a lot of bands, and a lot of bands have that on like first projects where they're like, it was just like stuff put together. Like most recently, I spoke to a band called Animal Jam, and that's what I was like, same thing. I was just like, I love your first EP, and it was like. I'm like, yeah, it was kind of all over. He's like, yeah, that's what that was. Like, we just wrote as like many songs that weren't really meant to be put together. I go, but we did, you know.
Animal Jam is sick.
Yeah, you know, and they did the same thing on their follow up. It's like we've kind of figured out what we wanted to do, and then their future stuff that they're like telling me about is again just a bigger development. But I think you have to. Those first projects are always like throwing everything at the wall and seeing what sticks, what makes sense together. And then it gives you the chance to just put something out. Because again, I'm a really big believer in like the more you hold on to, the more like you try to perfect stuff and try to like if you were trying to figure out the sound that you're doing for the new album on the EP, you could get stuck there forever because you don't want to release anything. So I think that's a good move is to just release something first. Kind of just get that those nervousness or jitters or just being able to play shows because like I feel like playing live helps a lot out and figuring out like what song like structure 100%. You want to use and stuff.
Feel it works. Yeah, absolutely.
How's been like the live like show feedback?
Live shows have been killer. They've been getting steadily like way better. Like our last show, we played in Denton at Rubber Gloves at a festival. And it was like stage dive, stage dive, stage dive. Which like I'm a hardcore. We don't necessarily play hardcore music, but I'm a hardcore kid. And like I was sitting there, I was like, oh my god.
Let's go.
I'm like, yes.
I saw somebody hop up on stage. I was like, no way. It's finally happening.
Was this Y2K Fest?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, I showed up there later. Like I didn't get into it.
The room like we got lucky. We played inside, so it wasn't super hot.
Oh, nice.
And we closed out that stage, and it was just one of my favorite shows I think we've ever had.
Yeah, that was a good time.
It was a really good time.
There's a lot of people out there.
It was a good festival.
Yeah,
man. It was solid. But yeah, it's been steadily getting better, and we have Bacon Fest on the 19th, which I think is going to be interesting.
That's going to be so cool. Michael's been working on that for a minute.
I know. I'm so excited. Killer and. I was talking to him. We used to be like, listen to Hunt the Dinosaur as like,
dude, in like middle school.
Yeah,
he showed me like Destructo by Hunt the Dinosaur. I kept joking like, if middle school me knew we were about to play a show with Hunt the Dinosaur, like he would be losing his fucking mind.
Yeah, Destructo's wild. Right off the rip, it was like I remember listening to that one for the first time, just like, what the fuck? Is this? It's like I had to just like start it over a bunch of times.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's gonna be a really good show. But I think I don't know. You guys bring like this really cool energy. But you're again like I started low because when we put you on a show because like I don't do the booking like for No Drop, like DJ does all that. So he'll send me like new bands every now and again. And then y'all were one that came across because like I have to figure out other stuff to do. And I was listening to like all the music and again it's one of those where I was like, oh okay, like this is really solid. Like you've been around for a while. And then I like kept looking and I'm like, oh like. They're really like still new like to the game, you know. But in your songs, as far as like that, so on the EP is like what I have to go on. You know, you're working on something new, but that influence in that, what is kind of like your? I guess what was the biggest like driving force as far as like influences into like those songs? I know there was a lot of different people writing, so I'm sure there's a few different ones.
I think you could talk about. I think we both have separate influences that show, in my opinion.
So like, I think it's a little bit different with every song, just because it was kind of one of those things where like, one song was written like a year before, one song was written like a couple months before, so it was a little different every time. But like Entitled, for instance, was one that I like started writing like a long time before we did it, and that one was, I mean, I was listening to like. So much pop punk at the time, like fucking Neck Deep, like I don't know, just a bunch of pop punk bands, and like I think that kind of shined through with some of my writing was like the pop punk influence.
For me it was like Microwave. It was like my number one. And he has the shirt on right now too. So let's say, I'd say Microwave is number one. Backseat Lovers. was definitely, yeah, I literally have a microwave tattoo. That's the impact
Wow.
that album has had on me as a writer and a person. Backseat Lovers. I actually
Backseat Lovers makes sense now. Yeah.
The funny thing is, the whole reason that this band like formed as quickly as it did was because I went to see the Backseat Lovers at Trees in 2021, and I remember walking away from that show, and like I'd really always been a metal guy. I was used to metal shows, and I was into that kind of music. Didn't go to a lot of indie shows. And I remember seeing them and just being so blown away. And upon learning their age, like they were all 19.
Yeah.
You know, I was like, we need to do this like now. Like it kicked my head where I was like, okay, that performance changed me.
Dude, I like, sorry to interrupt.
No, you're fine.
I like literally remember like a shift in his like entire demeanor after that show, because I mean we had always talked about getting a project started. We'd always wanted to do something, and it was always like, okay, yeah, like we're gonna do this eventually. Right. And then he went to that show and like he had everything planned out.
Yeah.
Like after that it was like he just had the steps that we needed to walk through. I think sometimes you just
have that moment where it's like, oh my, I don't know. If you ever get the chance to see them live, see them.
I would love to see them live. I have not yet.
Gosh, they're a band that deserves like so much love and a better crowd too, for sure. There's a lot of bands like that, but they're amazing songwriters and just like amazing performers.
Dude, that new album.
Yeah, that new album too is amazing.
Cry a lot to that album.
Yeah, no, they're like world class artists. Same thing with Microwave. Like all bands that definitely like took me a little bit away from metal, and I definitely thank a little bit for it. Because if I just listen to metal, I don't know, man. I feel like that robbed my brain a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think most people will listen to I feel like I say that so many times, but it would be so weird to just listen to like one thing. Like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's just and there are people that claim to do that, which I don't think I don't think most people do.
Yeah.
But so that show is kind of like what inspired you to be like, let's just do this now. I mean, same thing like with y'all. Like I didn't know like how young y'all were until like, because I again, before I saw y'all perform, I just knew like the music. You know what I mean? So I was going off of that. And then I remember like hearing, and then even now like hearing it again, like how old I'm like, that's insane. Again, the
JoJo helped us out a lot.
Yeah, for sure. He honed us in with everything, and like we give our eternal thanks to JoJo, just because like we click so well, and like that EP shows us in like everybody at our best at that point. Yeah, like in pulling that out, like it was just perfect. That week, I think we spent like a week, 7 days, tracking and recording everything. So like, I don't know. That just thanks to JoJo if he's out there listening to this.
We love you, JoJo.
We love you, JoJo.
Cool. And you said you're going back to
in December.
In December,
yeah.
Okay. So how's been you've obviously been writing the whole like last year and honing into what that. What is how do you guys tackle like, because you both write, do you both write like lyrically as well?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. How do you like both each like approach like your
we have very different processes.
I was gonna say
like okay, you go first because mine's a little funny.
As far as like writing for me is kind of one of those things where like, I don't know, since I produce, like I like to write from the top down. Like I'll try and get the whole section of music laid out before I even try and do vocals.
Okay.
And then like vocals normally are kind of last for me. So like I'll write like the guitars for a section, and then I'll put drums under those, and then I'll put some bass under it, and then I write the vocal. This guy's a master of scratch takes. Like he'll do. I'll like hit record at the beginning of a song, and he'll do one pass through like an entire song, and I'm like, okay, we don't need another take at all.
It's funny because what I've always taken, like I was a big Strokes fan.
Yeah.
And listening to a lot of like Julian Casablancas demos for the Strokes, and then also watching that Beatles documentary, which is incredible. What do they call it? Let It Be? No, it's what are they? I don't know. It's the one with Peter Jackson.
Oh,
where it's all the archival footage. and they literally just like they're just doing so many takes and just like throwing stuff out there where they're just like throw this melody out there, doesn't matter if it sounds bad, just do it. That's my method. And like even in lyrics I'm screaming gibberish most of the time. And then I go back and change it later. But that's just how I've always, that's what comes out best for me. I know some people, if I sit there and think about it for too long, I just get too, my brain just is like, I don't like it. You know?
I don't know. It just, the way you're describing it is the way that I like would write songs. It's just, I would write melody first. Like it's just, and I don't know what it's about. I don't know anything. I'm just like, I'm just going to sing cause like I said, when we were jamming, we would just loop stuff and I would just like sing and come up with something. And I would always only like one or two words would come out and then I'd just try to figure out why did those come out and then go from there. But I have met people that write songs lyric first and build a song around it, and that to me like doesn't make sense. Like, you know, at least for me, like in the way I write. But yeah, like actually it's Lauren from a band called Grey Bloom is who does that. Yeah, she was like, oh yeah, I wrote like these songs from she just writes lyrically first, and then they would build songs around it, and I'm like, that's kind of interesting. You know, that's cool. It's a cool way to do it. But yeah, mine is, you know, your way sounds more like it makes sense to me. Cause like, just figure out what it's gonna sound like, and then gather the emotion out of it, and just, you know, build after that. Being able to produce though, it's got to be so fucking beneficial. As far as like to you as a musician in general.
Like we used to write in the band, like at practice, which I love. I love writing at practice, but you hit a certain wall because when it's so hard, like to hear, and usually I'm the only one with in-ears. Like, I like it's so everybody's on a different page and like trying to get people to understand. It kind of works better when we're in Logic and just writing in Logic.
I feel like you can be more like it's easier to write when like when like everything's in front of you, like laid out, because we can like arrange as we write, and we can go back and listen to a part without having to like play it through as a whole band. And
like the other day we were writing a song and we were like, we had like whatever verse, chorus, whatever, and we were like, wait, what if we change it around this way? Let's flip it this way. And we're flipping like made every part in and out. And we were like, until finally, like, that sounds good. And we're like, okay, but I don't think that would have ever happened if we were in a band practice setting. I'm like, hey, what if we do the verse and then the chorus and then the intro? And they're like, nah, I don't know what you're talking about.
Or first of all, even trying to get like coordinate everybody to relearn the song a different way, you know, a different way. It would just take a time in its own. You know?
Our drummer is self-taught, and he just like, it's funny because he's just really good at just doing stuff, not necessarily that he knows.
If you speak in like any technical terminology to him, he'll be like, huh? And then if you're like, okay, he's like, he plays it perfectly.
Exactly. And then it's funny because Owen is then the like the technical prog jazz bassist.
Dude, our bassist is insane. He's literally like a state-wide, like renowned jazz bassist. Right. But so he's like the complete opposite. Like he'll be breaking our songs down in music theory, and we're like, bro,
like we don't know what you're talking about.
It's like you're the only one that understands this right now. Man, that's. But yeah, I think that ability, and I love that it's become a more commonplace to have like people in the band that know how to produce, because it just allows you to have moments like that again where you can rearrange songs like just like on a whim, or you know, track each other like during COVID. I know the band started like kind of after, but like during COVID, like sending stuff back and forth, like being able to write songs that way, or even like to me, when I think about the later part of like our band is when we started getting into like doing our own demos and stuff. I realized how important it was. Like, oh, I don't have to be at practice to keep listening to the song that we were doing. So like by the time we would practice it once, it'd get tracked, and then like I'd have it in my ear, so I knew exactly like what structure was expected by the next time we all got together or whatever. Because it wasn't like, oh, what was after this part again, and have to like spend a whole nother hour before we actually get to play the song. But it's becoming. How long have you been like doing that and like learning how to do that?
So a long time. I didn't start taking it seriously until last year. So like my like junior year of high school. So like 3 years ago, 2 years ago, no, 3 years ago, I like got this like Studio One like production pack kit thing, but like it was, bro, I was ass. Like, I could not do nothing. I remember I tried to record a demo of Smells Like Teen Spirit, and it literally sounded like I recorded it on a toaster, bro. But then JoJo really has been like just such a mentor in like so many ways to all of us. But like I remember one thing he like told me at one point was like, he said I had a good ear for it. And I was like, when he said that and I heard that coming from him, I was like, dude, like if he's saying that, like I really need to just have some confidence in myself about it. So I started like taking it really seriously, and I saved up and got a MacBook so I could like work in Logic. And then like this bad condenser microphone that I still use.
Oh yeah.
Now I like even
With a
record
sock.
other bands.
Yeah.
So like I've started to take producing more seriously. Like I don't know if you know Torched.
No, I don't.
So they play around here, but I'm doing all the Torch stuff. It's been like probably about a year and a half since I started like really getting serious about it.
Yeah.
What
but
do you
it's
use as
cool.
a pop filter, Trent?
A sock. I use a sock as a pop.
I don't think it's clean either. I've done a lot of
Someone didn't
takes.
believe me, but like I had somebody on the podcast. I'm glad you bring that up because they made me feel like I was crazy because we would use it was a wire hanger, like, and we would like bend, and we put like
funny.
it was like a pantyhose or something like that material over it, and that was the pop filter.
Dude, I keep joking. I want to name my studio Krusty Sock Studios.
I'm
I like that. I'm not
bro.
against that. You gotta
Like, it's
recognize your
kinda funny.
beginnings. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it makes sense to you. And later down the line, when you're producing big stuff, and like you have this story that makes sense.
Yeah.
But that's, I mean, you make it work. Like once you want to do something, like you figure it out. Like and
for sure.
I think again, like that's a good sign that you are doing something that you are supposed to be doing. It's
Exactly.
like it's that drive because. To learn how to do that, like you have, it's so much repetition. It's so much time that you have to spend and actually like, let me look up how to do this, look up how to do that.
Yeah.
And most of it is independent. Like you got to figure it out because you will have people to help. Like, again, like JoJo, that was, like I had the same experience with, actually not the same experience, but I had there's a guy named Zaylin who plays in a band called Dispositions, and I wanted to buy a camera, and he was like doing filmmaking and stuff like that. So I'm like, cool. I'm like, hey, like what camera should I get? This is what I want to do. And instead of like telling me like this is what you need to get, like he basically gave me basic info, but then was like, you really want to look it up yourself in like a nice way. But honestly, my first reaction was like, fuck that guy. He doesn't want to.
Yeah.
But what it did is just actually made me make sure that it actually was something I wanted to do because I went and researched and bought what was right for me. And then later when I talked to Zaylin about it, he's like, yeah, I can't tell you what you need. Like only you like are gonna be able to find that out. And I like thanked him for it because like I spent like weeks researching what I actually wanted and needed, and I bought what was right for me, and then have like found out to like grow and like everything. Like when I think about like starting like this, I didn't know how to do any of this, and like now what I mean, it's developed, but I think it births that creativity, and you just need a few people along the way to be like,
exactly,
you're doing like something cool, or you're doing something good, like like that, telling you have an ear for it and be like, all right, I need to just keep trying or keep going.
Well, I think the other thing was like I've never been like a high performing dude. Like I almost failed high school. I like never really took anything seriously, and then like we started doing this, and I was like, this is one of the only things where like I felt really good about, like when I put in work to it, I can see it like I can see what comes of the work, and I feel like I'm doing good. So it's been sick. Like it makes me want to pour like all of myself into it because like I just never had found a calling. Like I never had anything that I cared about that much, and then I was doing this, and like it's my shit, dude. Like I love it. So he's the opposite, bro. Like he won't talk about it, but like he was in all AP classes. His GPA is crazy. Smart ass dude.
I don't even know. It's funny because like I really did not care that much about school,
Yeah.
but I was just really good at like BSing my way through everything.
Yeah.
Like, some of my teachers hated me, bro. Like, for whatever reason, I get really good. I think because they expected me to be like this hostile, like, and I'm wearing like metal, like hardcore shirts to
Yeah.
school that are like
he'll
scary.
Have, like, it'll be like a dude's head like exploded.
Kind of like that.
Yeah, exactly, bro.
Stuff like that.
Exactly. And like, it was just one of those things where it was the complete opposite of how I looked. And like, they just hated me for whatever reason. But yeah, I just got through school, kept my head down, you know, very happy to be out. It's actually funny because we're doing our first year of college, and we're actually, because of the album, we're having to take school online for our first semester.
Really?
Yeah, because we scheduled the album. It's November 30th to December 19th. We're going to be out in LA.
Wow.
And
So like 2.
So, yeah,
over 2 weeks.
which is finals week, if you
Yeah.
know anything about that. And I went up to my academic advisor and I was like, hey, you know, here's the deal. Like, I'm going to be out, and from this period to this period. She literally looked at me and she said, boy, you fucked. And so I had to go figure that out, take all my classes online. I don't think they like me very much, but whatever.
Already?
But whatever.
They didn't
you
like
know.
you in high school and they already don't like you now.
Dude, so something crazy happened. My like advisor for college, the one who's helping me pick all my classes, ended up being like the same lady who is going to be my English professor.
Yeah.
And she taught Post Malone when he was in
really?
high school, and then she was asking me like why I was going to take all online classes, and I told her, I was like, we're going to record an album, whatever. She was like, I taught Post Malone and now I'm teaching another like musician dude, and she was like, who's the common denominator? I was like,
she's making stars.
that was funny.
So you
Shout
take that
out
class.
Post Malone.
You take that class.
I love
Dude, I
Post
love
Malone.
Post Malone.
I actually just saw him when he came through town like this past
Oh,
weekend.
was it good?
It was amazing. I'd never seen him before like live, and I didn't realize how much of like his discography that I knew, because I really knew everything but the album he had just dropped. Like that was the only thing I was like, oh, I haven't like listened to that one yet.
Pretty good.
But his live show's amazing. Yeah, they had like, it starts off, he had like a string quartet like up there, like
that's
playing
cool.
like a drum. Like that's fucking cool.
Oh,
But
he's
yeah, full band.
legit, dude, and such a good guy. From when I like interviews with him, I just
He's like respectful.
yeah, bro.
Even in the performance, he was like very like, he kept ladies and gentlemen and everybody like, oh, like thanks a lot. But he's like really like super nice and sweet like during his set. But yeah, like it was just a really, really good show. And it's just it's interesting. Like, I mean, you read that story about that teacher, but it's interesting, and it's why I enjoy doing this, because I know that everybody has that possibility to like, it's like, you know, to get that. It just depends on, you know, it depends on a lot of stuff. But as far as like the work ethic and creativity, like y'all have that fucking down. Like, you know, you are working like continuously to do this. You're writing really good music, you know, and from what it sounds like, again, you're continuing to develop like skills that are just helping you do that. But again, the other little bit is just a tiny little bit of luck that you get around. But so recording an album at the end of the year, what are the plans for like your release? Like,
So yeah, we bounced. I mean, we bounced back and forth with release, because there's so many ways to release now. And like, I was actually really in love with how, you know, we were talking about On Your Wall, Sleep Token released that last album where they just like every week it was a new single, which I thought was so sick, because for me it stayed fresh in my mind, and I was like, I'm gonna listen to that new single. Like, that was good. And we've been toying around the idea of like dropping 4 singles and then an album, probably out by right before summer, probably a little bit, probably in that like that May, April territory, hopefully. But also we want to make sure that it's not rushed. Like, we want to make sure we can build up enough around it, you know. I don't necessarily want to be like, you know, teasing the single for a month, being like, big things coming, big things coming. Like, you know, I just, you know, I think when we get to that bridge, we're going to figure out the right plan, hopefully do some cool stuff. Like, I have this old camcorder I shoot everything on with us. and hopefully maybe we'll edit together a little something.
Put something together.
Yeah, we'll see. And we're planning to put out a single soon, self-produced too, which we'll see if we get around to that. But
that's like independent from the album.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we wanna make sure that, like, because nowadays it's like you don't put out music. People care about you for 2 weeks. And it's like, everyone, like, that happened to us, bro. We actually got landed when the EP released. We got put on a Spotify editorial playlist.
Really?
Yeah, Iggy. It was all new rock. It was like with Iggy Pop. I think Ozzy Osbourne was on there.
Damn, okay.
Which is
cool,
crazy.
Yeah, it's
because
wild.
I got an email and it was like, you've been added to an editorial playlist.
Dude, I
And
shit my pants
Yeah.
when I saw that. I was like, what the fuck?
No, but yeah, I'm scrolling down this list. I see Can't Swim too, who I love, and I'm
Can't Swim
like,
is so good.
I know.
Yeah.
I've seen them live so much.
I have not yet. I really want to see
I haven't
them.
either. I
Yeah.
want to go see him, bro.
But yeah, no, I'm scrolling there. I'm looking. I'm like, holy shit! And it was literally like we jumped from like 300, 400 monthly listeners to like 10,000. And like that was cool. But then when that week ended, it was the pace has kept up, but it was like that was like the peak, and then everyone was like,
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the tough part about a release is having to worry about that, especially like with the amount of work that you put into this,
Yeah.
like it fading away like is that quickly kind of sucks, you know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. Like I really did like the way that they, the Sleep Token did do
So
their release.
cool.
So they've done it twice. I don't know if you remember their last release, but they did it different. The last release, it was they did a song every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
and they did the entire album though. They did
That's crazy.
literally the last song released on the release date of the album. So
Cool.
So I liked it just because I kept getting songs, but on that particular one, I'm like, well, I've heard the whole album now except for like
Yeah.
one song. But on this one, they did what, like 4?
Yeah,
I think they
yeah.
did
At the
4,
end,
and then
yeah.
you waited until like I think it was
Yeah,
like
it was
a
a
month
long
or two.
period.
Yeah.
Well, and that's my. I don't know if I'm the only one out there, but I love listening to albums. Like that's
Yeah.
my thing. But I know like a lot of people, and maybe because I'm a musician, don't like that. They will not go. But like whenever I see like. Whenever I get that on Spotify, whenever I get that bell and I see that blue dot, I'm like, oh yeah, who dropped? And I go and I listen to whatever while I'm at work or when I'm out driving. Like I love listening to whole albums.
Yeah.
So like that's why I was like, we have to do a 12-song album. Like, and that's something that's special to me. I love every part of it because I just like that art contained within like that piece of music. I
Yeah.
love listening to that and exploring to that.
Especially if it's written as an album. You know
Oh,
what I mean?
yeah.
Like if it's written with that purpose, I enjoy listening to stuff through because then I can. If it's just singles, it's cool. I get music, I get stuff that coming. It helps
Right.
like the artist because like I said, you stay relevant for a little bit longer periods of time, but. That's why I like the way they did it because there's a blend of still like there's singles that kept you. Oh, there's cool stuff on the album, but there was still a moment where you sat down and still heard over half an album that was new,
Yeah.
and you heard it as a whole because they didn't release. They released like the first 4 in order, but then it went out of order
Yeah.
like with something. So you still you didn't listen to it like straight that way.
Teenage Wrist just did that too. I don't know if you're familiar with
I'm
them.
not. Yeah.
Dude, they're good.
Amazing band that will probably get a lot of traction coming up here. But they just released a full length and it's sick because every song has it's like a rap album.
Yeah.
Like although it's not like it's like a shoegaze alternative rock, but every song has a feature. Like
Wow.
every song. And they released like the first 4 pretty like repetitively, and then everything else in the back half of that album was new, which I thought was cool.
Yeah, and I think that's the way you kind of have to think about it because listening to whole album is just like a really just nice experience.
Right.
It feels like just a nice moment to have with that piece of art. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's like like let's sit down, especially like if you have nothing else to do and you're just doing that. There are rare opportunities where I get that where I'm just like have a moment to just sit down and listen to something.
Right.
But when I can, like it's really nice, especially new stuff. I love listening to new stuff. As a whole, as that complete moment and hear it. I don't get too much time to be able to do that, but I tend to do it at either like if I'm working out or something. That's where I just don't have to like I can listen to something or at work. I can just have music on and
Right,
I'll listen
yeah.
to just whole projects at a time. But it's just a nice moment to experience that whole thing,
Right.
the way everything flows into each other. If you catch on the lyrics the first time, which I normally don't, the very
Yeah.
first listen to, I'm more like, what's the vibe of the album? But it's just a really nice moment. But with being a newer band, like you have to, I'm like, I need this to
Right. Yeah.
keep in play. Like it's got to be,
Yeah.
people have to remember, because otherwise you work really hard for an album, and then again, like once that period is over, then you're like, okay, well, what else do I do with this? So you have to think about what else you can add on to that, with like I don't know, content creation and all this stuff. There's a right way to do it, I think.
Right,
A personalized way to yourself.
Yeah.
To add into it. But you said you have like just a few ideas with like the camcorder that you take everywhere.
We're definitely big, or at least I am. I'm a big like analog type of guy. Like I shoot a lot of photography too, film. And it's just I love like creating like almost a vibe around something, or like not an aesthetic, but like I love, because like so much of, you can listen to a band and it can be anything you want in your head, but that band can create like an image around that music that you associate with. So like they could be playing any kind of genre of music, but like if you put a certain image and a certain vibe out there, then you're gonna connect with that vibe. I don't know if that makes any sense, because that sounds like gibberish, but like that's just what I want to create. I almost want to implant a certain image of like the vibe and what we want out there for people.
I think like the music is like half of it.
Yeah.
I would say like, I don't know. I'm trying to think of like a good example, but for me, I love when like you were saying, like you listen to a full project and like you kind of build your own meaning to it, but then like say they did a bunch of videos with it and you're like watching that with the music, then you kind of get the other part of the image that the band is trying to create.
I think Knocked Loose is a really great example
that's
of that. Like I don't know if you saw that last music video they did, but it was like you listen to songs and they're great, and then you saw the music video and you're like, oh, I get what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
Or like that visual EP they did, Tearing the Fabric of Life, where you listen to it and you're like, okay, and then you watch this animated video and you finally understand what the whole piece is about.
I want to do an EP where we do a video with it, like at some point, so bad. Like maybe in between albums at some point. That would be sick.
So I think the best way I've found to like make it work is to just treat it as, like you were saying, that like the music is half of it, as treating whatever extra you put into it as an extension of whatever art you just created, or whatever music. So it's not like, oh, not seeing it as like this video is just to promote this song. It's like, no, this video is part of like this piece of like,
it's part of the storytelling.
Exactly. Like, so one of the coolest things I've seen is actually that album behind you, Because the Internet by Childish Gambino had a short film like before it came out, had a little short film, and then it had a script. Like that one comes with a script that you read along, and then it tells you like when to play the song, like that's going in order.
Have you seen?
I'm like, that's an interesting experience.
Have you seen his? He did a short film with, was it Rihanna?
Oh yeah,
on Prime. What's it called?
Oh my God, what is that?
But it has all the songs.
I haven't even seen that.
I thought that was so
sick.
cool, and it's got like songs that weren't put out, which pisses me off because like that Saturday song isn't out. I'm like, that song's a banger. But yeah, shit, like stuff like that is just so creative, and it's that's just the extension of like that music. You know what I mean? It just branches off, and you can make some really cool stuff. When I was planning on releasing an EP, one of my ideas was to create art pieces for every one of the singles. But treating it as like it's an extension of what this song. It's not just like, oh, this lyric, so we're gonna use that and just make it around it. It's like I was gonna have like different artists interpret like part of the words or something, and have them create something. But just like different things like that are really kind of cool, and just helps like. I think it's just, I mean, for you as an artist, it just helps you keep creating off of the same idea. Yeah. And then for, fans or just people who are listening or watching or like looking at this, following you, it's just a really interesting, like, into your creative process, you know? And people love that. I feel like that's the way you create connections with people. People get to know you a little more without you having to just, I don't know, just tell them directly, like, this is what we're doing with this. It's just another expression of it. Yeah.
And I'm a huge, like, I come from like acting theater. Like, I was an actor before I was a musician. And I'm also really big into like cinema and films, and I watch so many movies. Like, that's my thing. And that the artistry of that too, I like to incorporate or like to have ideas into what we do or would like at some point.
Yeah.
Because I just, there's something about just that art as a whole that speaks to me. Just like how in depth, you know, I want everything to be. Like, I don't know. I feel like all these things, like all this art influences what we're doing. And it's a big part of us as people too.
Yeah.
You know, I think, do you know Loathe?
Yes.
So good. At one point, I hadn't thought about it like this, so he's way more influenced by film than I probably am, because I don't really watch as much film. I mean, I love it, but I just haven't gotten into it like he has.
Yeah.
But one thing he said at one point was like he felt like they were really influenced by film. And we saw them live, and I had a chance to talk to their guitarist, I think, and I asked him, because I don't know, you weren't it, but I was like, would you say like y'all are influenced by film? And when I said that, dude, like his face lit up, and like I think that like he was like, hell yeah, like probably more than music we're influenced by film. And I was like, that's cool. And then like when I really started thinking about that, like if you go listen to their music, like
it feels cinematic in a way where it's like I feel like I could be like watching a soundtrack to some kind of movie out there.
I hope that they fucking make a movie.
That'd be
I would
fucking
watch
sick.
the shit out of it.
Didn't we talk to them about that? And they were like, that would be sick.
Oh yeah. I think so.
They're all killer dudes too.
Yeah,
I reached
so
out to the
nice.
bassist on Instagram because he does film photography, and we had like a whole conversation.
Oh,
just
really?
me and the bassist alone.
Yeah.
Like he was talking about the camera he got from his parents,
Yeah.
and like how he loves it. They are like killer dudes.
They're
and
so
killer
nice.
musicians.
That's
so
fucking
nice.
cool. And it's just another way to express the. Again, it kind of goes back to that, like only listening to one genre to write like music. In this case, it's like only taking in one medium to write like the medium of music, but you can take in so many like influences come in like the form of, again, like film, you know, art, pieces of art that you've seen, just like emotions. Like I've had like, so the Backseat Lovers thing, like the show that you were talking about, I had a similar emotion with when I saw Bill Murray for the first time last year.
Oh my!
Same.
Yeah, and
Same.
I'm like, this show is
gosh.
absolutely incredible. It's to this day, it is my favorite show, like of all.
Bro,
it was just
it's
so
crazy you say
fucking
that.
fun,
Like-
and it just for me. I've like been listening to Bill Murray for a while now, and I'm like, these songs are like depressing as fuck, right? And then I go and see it, I'm like, it's the funnest time ever, and just to control the energy, that entire room, because I saw him at Trees.
I think you.
Entire room. Were you there? Yeah. That show was just, I don't know, like I from the spot where I was, I did not like move. I was just so like enthralled.
Bro,
Yep.
But
it is
that
absurd.
emotion, that feeling is what when I was like, if I do music, I go, this is this feeling, like not this genre, not this music, like whatever. I go, this feeling is what I want to like create. I go, so it's like for me, I'm like figuring out how to create that feeling that I just had is what like my influence was, you know. But you were about to say,
Oh, dude, my bad. I get excited when people bring up Bill Murray because I'm such a fucking fanboy. But I found them like 2 years ago, and like I just started listening to them fucking constantly.
Shout out Attack Attack.
Dude,
Shout out Attack,
And then we went to So What last year. And their set was at the end of like the second day, I think, or no, it was the first day.
Yeah, because I couldn't see out of my eye.
Yeah, he got fucking 70 SPF sunscreen directly in his eyeballs.
at like 1 p.m. too, right when the day
Oh my
started.
God.
Dude,
and I was sobbing the whole day.
I was literally crying at every set, bro.
People are
And I just, that was the worst I'd ever felt in my life.
like, why is he crying at Knock Loose? He's emotional. Them barks are getting to him.
Right? No, I know.
So their set was like literally the last set that I saw that night, and like I can't even, like, it was my favorite. It was probably my favorite set I've ever seen. Like, just the vibe was perfect.
Yeah.
Like everybody was connected. Like I was watching that band, and like I'd never seen like a band perform and like be so connected with the audience at the same time. Like it it blew me away. It's so interesting you had that same experience with them. It must be them, dude.
It's the most it's the most
so
like crowd participation and not, I don't know, it just didn't feel fake crowd participation, if that makes sense. Like it literally felt like we were all just there together having a fucking moment. You know what I mean? We were just like living in this like particular moment. Like the fact that he was just like, on the count of 3, say fuck, and the entire room was roaring. And I'm like, everyone's just like literally like, it's literally like you're hanging out with your friends and just fucking around. Like that's what it, like that's the kind of like, it feels like everyone's just friends in that room for like that moment. And I just had like such like an amazing time. And that, again, that energy, that vibe was like, yeah, I love that. And I saw them again at So What this year, and it felt the same way.
I did too. Yeah, it was incredible.
It just feels awesome. And they're fucking hilarious.
Right. Dude, I want to make a song with them so bad.
That'd be
facts. I think the biggest thing that I've noticed with them, and I've noticed like my favorite hardcore band right now is Drain, which he has the hat on.
Drain. Okay.
There's like this certain feeling. And it's a separation of, and I watched a Bill Murray interview, which I put this, like, completely changes the way I think. And he was talking about ego, and he was talking about how when he had first started, he would let his ego get in the way of everything he did. You know, when he wanted to do it all himself, he was like, when someone came up and was like, I want a graphic design, he's like, no. I want to edit, he was like, no. And eventually he realized, he was like, I'm letting my own ego get in the way of everything. So I love bands who, like, you can tell, like Bill Murray, he gets out there, he doesn't have an ego. It's not like he's trying to act cool. He just is who he is. And he does what he does. Drain
and people love it.
And Drain is another one of those bands where they come out and they don't put on that hard, like, tough guy hardcore act where I'm like, you know, I beat the shit out of people when I get out of the show. And they have a good time, and it is the craziest show.
Flying around.
The craziest show I've ever been to was Drain, and it's not like it's like he's like hostile. It's like having a good time. We talked to him before the show. We were like, he's like 5 minutes before he's supposed to go on. He's just in the audience walking around.
Yeah,
like, dude, I think you're supposed to be on stage right now. He's like, dude, what? But I just think that's a cool thing for me, like, and that's something we always try and carry, where it's like, don't have an ego, bro. Treat people with respect, you know. Don't act like you're bigger than you are.
It gives you access to, like, make even, like, better things. Again, the ego does get in the way a lot, because there's different, like, ways where you can do. One is, like, you want to be able to do everything yourself, and you, like, don't want the help, or you feel like whoever's gonna come in new, like, is not gonna, you know, is gonna mess it up, or something like that, or just like, but you end up like limiting yourself to like your own ideas, and you, as much as like you're in your head like, oh, I'm good at what I'm doing, I go, it can always be better just by a little, just like collaborating and working with somebody else. There was actually I had a moment not too long ago where I was kind of going through something, like I revert back into something, and I get really like, oh, I need to do all this myself kind of thing. And my friend Lewis, he runs a company called Fostepco, and he runs like a studio and a bunch of other stuff. Oh, cool. But he hands me a sticker. He's like, it's like for his, like, you know, business, and it actually, it's this one right here.
Oh, sick.
It just says
that is sick.
I want to make sure your. Oh my god, I can't remember. Swallow your pride is what it said, and I remember reading it and having a moment where I'm like, there's some times where I just need to like swallow that pride and
100%.
And take in like all this new information, like, because I could, like, so it came in the part where people were like, oh, you should be doing this, and immediately I get defensive, because to me, I would get like, oh, you're trying to change something that I'm doing because you don't like it, or you don't think it's good. So, and it's like, if I just like, again, just set that aside and just be like, okay, like, what is this idea? See if I can add anything or combine it with like my, you know, being, and just collaborate. Collaboration just seemed to bring out the best in like people, but not being afraid and not being apprehensive towards like new ideas and just like bringing collaborative. But I think, I remember when Bill Murray started, it was just like all him by himself. And then I think the my favorite songs were when he started like giving some of that control away, like the saxophone and like all the songs is fucking sick. Like first of all, and like having that live as band, she's amazing,
insane live. Like, dude, she does all the backup vocals, all the saxophone. Like, dude, I'm fucking fanboy.
Yeah,
for that
it
band.
works. Yeah, it's so good. We're just gonna keep talking about it for the next time. But no, I think that's one of those bands, one of those moments that like I've had, and again that even for you, that Backseat Lovers show was like, oh, I need to do this now, and it's a good. It's that I feel like that's such a good genuine motivation to be like, it was an emotion to be like, I want to do this, like, and we should do it.
Well,
now.
I was emotionally charged, like I was like, that show had such an impact on me where I was like, this is how I want to convey how I feel. Yeah. Or like, express that, I guess.
I think also kind of one thing that happened was like after that happened with you, like, and I know I was talking earlier about how like I watched his demeanor about things kind of change. Like one way it kind of bled over to me was like I realized like we can do this. Like it's not a matter of like you need to have all these metrics met before you can like start making your craft and start doing shit. You don't have to be really good at it to get started. In fact, like it's the opposite. Like you have to suck at the beginning to get good. And like I think learning and realizing that like it's okay to not be the best at your craft yet is like how you become the best. Is like just doing it anyways.
Well, and another big thing that I was thinking about when you're talking about ego was like I've always number one like support your scene, and like whenever we play shows we watch every single band on that bill. And I love pouring back in that love into the scene, and like even the local hardcore shows, which are the
absolutely
best.
Insane. Some of my favorite shows.
But like I've seen some of my favorite performances that have also ignited that moment, like Fever Cult, good example, on the show that y'all booked.
Yeah, Fever Cult.
We stayed and watched them, and we were like, I think that was that show, right?
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I think so. And I remember seeing that set and being like, holy shit, like that was incredible. Or another example being Curl.
Yeah,
Curl was so
Curl's
good.
Fucking
which was like good. I sat there at that show and I was like, fuck.
Yeah.
And it's a sweet moment to be able to not only like be a part of something like that, but then also be able to free show.
There's nothing like fucking shielding yourself with like 6 people you've never met from the fucking FUBU flyer at hardcore shows. See Chance running up about to Superman punch the shit out of you. Everybody's like, oh shit.
Yeah, he beat the out on that. Like our drummer had never been to a hardcore show.
Oh no.
And
oh no.
And like, oh my god, dude. And
Ballista, crutch, bro. He started swinging the crutch, and we were like, "Oh fuck!"
And it was Ballista set, and fucking Chance, he was on a crutch the whole show, and he came over and fucking started decking our drummer, and I'm sitting there losing my fucking mind. I don't even feel like, you know what? I'm just sitting there laughing. I'm like,
you fit right in.
I know. And Dylan after the show, he's like, I'm never going to this shit again. I was like, that's fucking funny.
Oh my god,
that was so funny.
That's such a fucking good time. Yeah, mentioning like those bands like Curl, Fever Cult, but being able to have those moments with bands that are in your same scene, like around same like town, is so cool. And that's another moment where I think you can take it and be like, this can be done. You know what I mean? Like, and then seeing like how many talented people is like, yeah, like you'll never get to anywhere if you like never start. And like literally like I think like the most basic thing is like just start and just don't stop. And then that's pretty much it. You'll learn everything along the way. Like you'll get different influences. You'll, I don't know, emulate at the beginning to figure out what you want to do. Like you'll take stuff from your favorite like influences and bands, and then you start figuring out what you want to sound like. But the biggest thing again is starting, and then once you start, just keep going. And I feel like y'all are on that path, and you are. I'm just excited. Like listening to y'all talk about it, I'm excited. Now hearing that there's an album in the works, it has me even more pumped. I really, really can't wait to hear any of this new stuff. I am super excited for what y'all are about to like come out. I am more than like positive that it's nothing but like great stuff in like y'all's future. I really do. But I do want to thank you guys for stopping by today. This was awesome.
Thank you so
cool.
much.
so
good.
Yeah,
bro.
you are absolutely welcome back anytime. Maybe when the album's coming out and stuff like that, we will talk about it again. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for listening. This has anything you guys have coming up before we wrap up?
Bacon Fest, August 19th.
Bacon Fest,
I don't know
August
if this will
19th.
be out before then.
What
but
date is today?
I don't even know.
Probably not, but we'll
But after that, I think we play with Jockey, Like Roses. September 23rd.
Like Roses is fucking
Like Roses
sick.
is amazing,
I
right?
Need to see Like Roses. Yes,
I'm excited. Well, the venue is like, we're not having shows in there anymore, so we're finding a new venue. So if anybody's got a venue, yeah, hit me up. And then September 30th with Penny Board.
Sick.
And Lady Winners. Said the People. No, I don't know if Said the People's on that bill. I can't. I don't know. It all kind of blurs together.
That's
after a
cool.
certain
Okay,
point.
but we have some shows coming up, which we'll post about them too. We'll talk about them. And but again, yeah, thank you guys for stopping by. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for listening. This has been episode 79 with somebody else. Thank you guys for listening. See you guys next time.
Thank you.
Time it says better lose your man. We should run away, love me instead.
Pure sounds and breakdowns.
Love me instead.